Over the past 75 years, there have been over a dozen peace plans proposed to end the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So far, none have succeeded, but President Trump believes that this time his peace plan will work. On October 9th, Israel's cabinet approved the plan and agreed to a ceasefire with Hamas. On October 13th, the hostage exchange began. While President Trump claims his plan is already in the second phase, many are wondering if the plan will work, considering there are numerous obstacles to a lasting peace. This leads us to today's all-important question. Will President Trump's Gaza peace plan work? To answer this question, we will look at four key areas of analysis. First, we'll examine how the peace plan came together and what it entails. Second, we'll take a look at how the current ceasefire was reached. Third, we'll look at President Trump's personal motivation to end the war. And finally, we'll look at how the Israeli government and Hamas is responding to the situation. On September 29, 2025, President Trump announced the peace plan alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The plan was created with input from the Israeli government, the Gulf states, and Saudi Arabia, and drawn up by the United States of America. But importantly, there was no Palestinian input, which could create tension further along inside the peace process. The 20-point plan encompasses some key areas. To summarize, it includes plans for an international stabilization force, governance by an international board headed by President Trump and former Prime Minister Tony Blair of the United Kingdom, the demilitarization of Hamas, as well as economic reform. The plan has been widely praised inside the United States, with even Democrats praising it. This means that President Trump is not likely to face domestic opposition for carrying out the vision laid out in the plan. While the peace process has been instrumental in creating peace, it has not been fully agreed to by all sides. What Israel and Hamas have agreed to so far is a ceasefire. The Council on Foreign Relations explains that as a part of this ceasefire, Israel will withdraw to a line that leaves it in control of 53% of the enclave. In addition, there will be a hostage and prisoner exchange as well as aid delivery, which is currently ongoing. While these are obviously important steps, there is a lot the current ceasefire does not encompass. The peace plan calls for Hamas to demilitarize, which it has not agreed to at this time. In addition, the process that led to this ceasefire deliberately ignored issues which have not been resolved yet. The New York Times explains that Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, and Steve Witkoff, the Middle East special envoy, were key to getting the deal done. However, while Israel had many concerns about Hamas's statement at the beginning of the peace process, both Kushner and Witkoff pushed for the Israelis to accept a ceasefire, telling the Israelis this is a time to be positive. The article describes their approach as get to a yes first and hash out the details later. While this approach has clearly helped get the ball rolling, in such a volatile region, it is unclear whether it could cause problems down the road. For example, if Hamas does not fully demilitarize, the Israeli government could use that as proof that Hamas is not committed to peace and restart the war. Considering Israel still has control of 53% of the Strip, this could become a problem down the line. In the same New York Times article, it was reported that President Trump's advisors say that he is not too interested in the details of a long-term peace plan. This begs the question of why President Trump seems so eager to end this war and even draw up a 20-point peace plan in the first place. Of course, one major reason is President Trump's long-standing desire to be viewed as a peacemaker and dealmaker, as well as win a Nobel Peace Prize. While these are very obviously important to the president, there may be other interests at play here as well. The president, as well as many in his orbit, have direct business ties with Gulf and Arab states. The Center for American Progress reports that President Trump has hosted LIV golf events, which is funded by the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund at his golf clubs in the United States for undisclosed sums. In addition, the Trump Organization has partnered with a development firm in Saudi Arabia with ties to the government to build residential projects and golf courses inside the kingdom. The president's son-in-law has also received $2 billion in investment from the PIF in his own private investment firm. Similarly, the center reports deals between the Trump Organization and the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Qatar, including deals in real estate as well as hotels and others. And Steve Witkoff also has business ties to Qatar. While these raise questions of obvious conflicts of interest, they may prove helpful in securing long-term peace. As part of the 20-point plan, economic reform is mentioned. In the plan, they seek to rebuild and revitalize Gaza. It is certainly feasible that President Trump may see Gaza as an amazing investment opportunity for both him and his friends in his orbit, as well as the Qataris, the Saudis, and the UAE, who all are backed by the United States and have military deals with the United States. And considering that President Trump has business ties with all of them, it is likely that they will be the ones who will fund Gaza's rebuilding process. Considering this and the fact that President Trump will head the international board that will oversee Gaza if the peace plan is carried out, President Trump may see an amazing investment opportunity here, and he will also get first dibs on all of these amazing investment opportunities since he will literally be controlling the Strip. The final area we must consider is how Israel and Hamas will respond to all of this. A big point of contention is whether Hamas will even agree to disarm in the first place. Al Jazeera reports that while Hamas has publicly rejected disarming, in private it has signaled openness to the idea. This is important because Prime Minister Netanyahu said at the press conference announcing the peace plan that if Hamas does not agree to the peace plan, Israel will finish the job. Considering that members of Israel's hard-right cabinet have said that they will never support Israel leaving Gaza, it incentivizes Netanyahu to find a way to continue the war. However, if President Trump is breathing down his neck to end the war, he may have a hard time. We should remember that inside the peace plan, it allows Hamas to disarm and for its members to still live in the Gaza Strip if they commit to peace, or also leave the Strip if they no longer want to remain. This means that Israel will not have the opportunity to punish Hamas members who took part in the attack on October 7th, which left over 3,000 Israelis dead. This could be a major problem for Netanyahu, whose motivations for this war partially includes revenge and has publicly signaled that to the Israeli public. However, considering President Trump's desire to end this war, he may be stuck between a rock and a hard place, between President Trump and the Israeli cabinet, whose members, many of whom are very hard right. And this tension has already boiled up, as when Netanyahu raised concerns about the peace plan to President Trump, he reportedly was told by President Trump that he was always so effing negative, signaling that President Trump may be losing patience with the Israeli government. But the Israelis may have an out here, as Benjamin Netanyahu may be able to form another coalition with Israeli opposition members, some of whom have signaled they would join Netanyahu's cabinet if his hard-right members pulled out to help him stay afloat and continue this peace plan. Considering that Israel is also increasingly worried about losing support from the U.S. public, they may decide that they cannot afford to make President Trump unhappy, as he has been the strongest supporter inside the U.S. However, we must also consider the Palestinian side and how they will react to this peace plan. Even though we've already talked about Hamas, even if Hamas disarms, many Palestinians may become unhappy with the peace plan if they feel it is not responding to their interests. Dropsite News explains that Palestinians view this plan as a take-it-or-leave-it plan from the Americans, as it had no Palestinian input. While Gazans are eager for a respite in the conflict, it is unclear if they will respond well to be governed by an international board run by Donald Trump and Tony Blair. To conclude, President Trump's Gaza peace plan is still in its early stages. and much of it has still not been agreed to by all parties. However, the ball seems to be rolling in the right direction. But even if the conditions are right for a peace to be settled on, the execution of the peace plan might be the part that could make it a resounding success or a dismal failure, in a region of the world known for dismal American foreign policy failures.